right, hello and welcome everyone. This is ScriptCamp, week 1 of the Feature Bootcamp. This is going to focus on this question of why you're picking and sort of telling this story and choosing this to be the thing that you want to work on for the next 8 weeks of this program. This is open to everyone, though this is technically the second class in the series if you attended the intro class, which was last week, where we talked about just loglines and the foundations that you'll need in place before you choose the story that you'll be working on in the class. So we'll review some of that today, but you will have just a bit of a head start if you were at last class. Okay, so let's get going. My name is Connor, hi, and this is going to be, my window capture is not on for some reason. Give me just 1 second here. I should have a slideshow. Is that... Oh, that's not the right window. Not sure what's going on with my recording stuff at the moment. But let's just go with the regular webcam. Here we go. Okay, hi. So I am the main instructor in ScriptCamp. I teach the boot camps and the lab on weekends, which is Saturdays from 4 to 6. Let's try to get my slideshow working. I might just... Oh, there it goes. Perhaps? Why is this one in the wrong window? There it is. Okay, got it. Fixed it. We're good. All right, so what is ScriptCamp? We are a screenwriting community focused on taking you from concept to a first draft to more polished draft. We have lots of free classes and events and workshops like this one here that you are in right now, or perhaps are watching along with on YouTube, Twitch, or Twitter, or one of the streaming sites that we are on. We have some paid classes for VIP members, boot camps, and writers' labs, but we have lots of just open to everyone public events as well. A little bit about me. You can read this here if you want. I think people are tired of hearing about me by now in my classes, but the basics are I've been a repped working writer since 2017, and I am the creator of ScriptCamp and teach most of the classes here. Nacho, our co-founder, teaches the Wednesday, Thursday classes and runs various workshops and events around the server. So what is the bootcamp? This will take you from idea to first draft using this step-by-step and practical method, these 2-hour weekly classes, and with both me and with guests. And this is going to take 8 weeks. So 8 weeks for the feature. It's 2 months, and then 6 weeks for the pilot, 6 weeks for the play workshop, which is on Saturdays, and 4 weeks for the rewrite. So those are all running. Some of those are on the same day, but check the calendar if you want to see when all those different classes are going to be. As an unlimited member, you have access to the labs as well, which are like intensive one-on-one development sessions, which are like, it's like office hours almost, once a week. Saturdays from 4 to 6, you can come in, and me and other guests will be able to help you work through specific problems in your projects. We can look at up to 5 pages of material or of outline or of whatever you have and just give whatever guidance that you need to get it back on track. Let's look at the schedule here. So week 1 is going to be about why we're picking this specific story. Again, we're trying to refine our log lines as much as possible. So if you were here last week, hopefully by now you've done the first intro assignments, which are first thing, just get feedback on your log line and then adjust and revise it as much as you can up until today so that you can show us the revised one today and work on it even more. And hopefully by the end of class today, have a totally rock-solid logline for the project that you'll be working on in this class. If not, you will have up to next class meeting to decide on an idea, basically, and to get the first couple things done. You won't actually have to decide until next class, but if you have not yet decided on the movie, please try to be moving towards doing that as soon as you can. You don't want to be stuck not knowing what you'll be working on for too long. So what week 1 will be about refining the logline, filling out the sketchbook, which is this kind of blank collage-style document almost that you will be filling out with all of the unsorted and scattered ideas, lines of dialogue, ideas for characters and locations, pictures, images, research material, links to video, and just anything else that you need to just assemble in one place before you start writing. If you can look at the schedule, you can see that we spend the first 3 weeks on doing nothing but pre-writing and outlining and getting the idea as clean and clear as possible. And then we sort of emphasize really heavily the idea that you should know what's going to happen on every page of the script before you get going. And that's sort of the ideal situation. That's not always going to be the case, and sometimes you change your mind about something, or sometimes you go off track, or sometimes you don't stick to the outline, and that's all okay. But it's really important to, especially if you're going to be working with producers and managers and other people who want to develop a story with you, you develop the skills necessary to write out smaller versions of that story, and for instance, just a page, or just 2 pages, or just 3 pages, or perhaps up to 20 for a treatment, before you commit to writing pages on the script itself. So it's really, really essential that you develop the skill set necessary to write any size of this feature film story, up to 120 pages, but as short as just one single sentence, which is that logline that is going to be used as a tool to hook people into reading your material, to prove already that you know what you're doing. This is something original and interesting, and that they are going to be well rewarded for reading. All of that work just boils down to that one sentence version of the movie. So you're going to use that to keep on track for the development of the rest of the script draft. And also, if you have sketchbooks today, we can look at them if you want to, but you don't have to. Just try to fill this out entirely by next week. This is going to be, again, that just no right or wrong answers, things to go in the sketchbook. That is just a blank Google document that has all of your ideas for this project in it. And you can be working on that even in class, even right now. For chat, we'll be using the chat channel on the left-hand side of your Discord window. That is called Free Bootcamp Class, so make sure to use that. If you are going to have questions or comments that you want to leave, I can check this every once in a while. Please keep your mics muted unless I call on you, or if I just say, anyone, please chime in, which I will do sometimes. And remember, screenwriting being this very social job, you should get used to contributing and sharing ideas even at the early stages, and just get used to speaking on the spot extemporaneously about your story and just about anything else. Screenwriting is a job that requires a lot of charisma and socializing and working with other people. So these are all things you can be working on. It's more than just how do I write the best possible 90-page story alone in my room. There's so many social aspects of this too that you should just get used to and realize that you can't really be a reclusive, quiet, non-social writer if you want to write movies. Okay, so let's look at what else we have. Week 2 will be on outlining. Outlining 1. Outlining 1 is about these broad strokes, just the list of the events in your story and the rough kind of shape that it'll be in, and the general places that they should go with the structural headings over top of them. So we'll go a lot into structure that week, next Friday. Outlining 2 is about seeing cards and expanding these beats in the summary so that you will have a full paragraph for every scene. You're going to know the pages that it should take place upon. So, we know what happens on page 1. We know the scene on page 2 to 3. We know the scene on page 3 to 4. You should know what is going to happen in every single scene, and you're basically writing the movie at that point, even though it's still outlining. That is some of the real early heavy lifting happens on week 3, where you're going to be figuring out what happens in every scene. Week 4 is going to be where you actually start the script, and from then on you'll have about 20 pages to write each week. So about 4 a day if you're just writing on weekdays, but you can load it up however you want. In order to sort of more or less keep up with the benchmarks of the class, which would be, an 80 to 120 page long feature film. If your script is longer, you're going to have to write more every week. If it's shorter, you will write less every week. I think you get how that goes. But the point is, you will benefit a little bit from having shorter ideas because they're just more manageable in the time frame that you have access to. And in the TV class, if you pick a half-hour pilot, you have half as much work to do in the same time frame as if you pick the hour pilot. So just choose the idea that you have carefully and understand that some genres just require more runtime or a bigger scope. If you're writing a war epic, for instance, or a historical drama, those are going to be expected to have sort of longer runtimes than if you're writing a contained thriller or a horror movie or a fast-paced comedy or something like that. So different genres really thrive in different lengths, and you should probably, if you're newer at this, you will benefit from picking a shorter idea overall because it will just be less work to do, less outlining to be done, and less pages to write. So something to keep in mind. But so the second half of class will be every week we'll focus on whatever section of the script that you are currently at. So week 4 is on the beginning. What are the first page things that you need to do? What are the first 3-page things that you need to do? What are the first 10-page things that you need to do? From then we'll move to transitions, which is moving from Act 1 into the catalyst and kind of debate or trying the locks structural section of the script. Your break into 2 will take you into 2A on week 6. We'll talk about Act 2B on week 7, and we'll finish it off with Act 3 on week 8, and you'll have up until the end of that week to finish your feature. And if you fall a little behind, that's okay. It happens all the time. Your goal is not, there's no grades and there's no penalties for not meeting the deadlines, but in order to try to keep up with this, just try to do your pages per week, try to do around 20, at least around 20 every single time, and then you will have a feature film by the end. Will it be good? Probably not, but that's okay. And we reviewed this a lot last week, so we won't talk about it too much, but remember to move beyond the idea that any individual has to be good, or that anything has to be a masterpiece or your magnum opus or any of these things. Just remember, this takes a long time. No one starts good at this, and you have to get the bad scripts out of the way to get to the good ones. If you've not enrolled, go to scriptcamp.net/classes, and you can buy this course on its own, just this one feature course, or you can get free trial for the $49 unlimited membership, which includes every bootcamp that we do: feature, TV, playwriting, pitching, rewriting, everything else that we'll be adding soon. Here's what all the different membership tiers give you. Remember, though, that unlimited is probably just the most cost efficient, which gets you access to all these boot camps as well as labs, 60 hours of classes a month, plus private Discord channels, access to our video library, which is recordings of every single class. So that is probably where most of our subscribers are, and probably the just most efficient place to be. You can look at what these other tiers include as well. Remember, $5 a month membership still does include 8 classes a month, which is just for the price of a cup of coffee. Pretty good. It doesn't include boot camps or writer's lab, and you can see this coaching tier as well, which includes other stuff. But feel free to check the website. Remember, scriptcamp.net/membership to sign up if you've not already done so. After this first class, we'll be moving forward in the feature camp with every class will require at least unlimited membership to be in, or if you bought the course on its own. So this is the last free one for this current cycle. Week 1 class, we will check in with everyone who was here last week and see their revised and updated loglines, as well as ask, what script did you read? Because remember, the homework is part of the homework every week is going to be to read a full-length, cover-to-cover professional feature script from the blacklist, which we've linked in our chat, and we can link again today if you still are looking for where to find scripts to read. But this is a list of most kind of liked by the industry pro-spec scripts going around every year. Some are by professionals who've been doing this a long time. Some people are just now kind of breaking in. So it really varies what you're going to kind of get, but they're all at least of the level that you can learn something from every one of them. So you need to be reading, especially if you have not read any professional feature films yet. You cannot write a professional feature film unless you have read a lot of them. So to become a great writer, you must become a great reader. And we're going to be asking every week, what did you guys read? What did you learn from it? What did you think of it? It's not to trip you up, and it's not to have difficult, we're not going to ask you about the major themes or difficult discussion questions. It's just to make sure that you are reading professional level work every week. Like, you should be reading 3 scripts a week is my recommendation, but 1 absolute minimum, and just be ready to talk about it. Just be taking notes and learning things as you go. There's no way to get good at this unless you read a lot of feature scripts. Okay, so we'll do that. We'll look at what is premise, which we talked about last time, so we'll go quickly through that, but then we'll look at bootcamp ground rules, reminding you of the stuff that you probably don't want to choose for the class, and maybe guiding you more towards some things that you might want to. We'll talk more about loglines and high concept versus execution dependent, though again, I mostly want to focus on the latter half of the class stuff today, because we talked about a lot of this in the intro last week, which you can actually find a video of if you go to our YouTube archive and just go to last week. You'll be able to find it. We'll talk a little about comps and titles and posters today, which, again, we're not making titles and posters unless in some very limited circumstances, but you will at least... You can start conceptualizing posters and trailers and titles at the very beginning, just because it helps you kind of stay on course for what the movie is. It might help you highlight the high concept hook, or just like by having an idea of what would be on these visual elements in your mind. That's part of what we're always doing as feature writers, is we're not actually making visual elements of any of these stories. We're just keeping, we have to practice just visualizing these pieces of visual art that will never exist, or that, probably won't ever exist, and just getting good at allowing your brain to do that sort of heavy lifting and to work through this process of starting to think visually in a text medium, which is sort of strange to say we're working in a visual medium, but we're just writing blueprints essentially for this visual medium. So it can be kind of challenging to be looking at text all day, then be at the end of that be thinking, oh wait, but this would theoretically have to be filmed or drawn or animated, or there would be cinematography here, there would be direction here and blocking here and all these other things. So you should just start getting used to this idea that you are going to be primarily devising visual media that will never be fully realized in the class. And to that end, you should be able to kind of think of, what would the trailer for this look like? What would the poster for this look like? Even if you're not a director and you don't intend to be a director, what you're doing is just building those muscles and starting to think in a text-based visual medium is the only way I can think to describe it. Okay, so we'll talk about titles and posters, how to fill out your sketchbook a little bit, and then we will have a lot of time for student log lines. Again, if you were here last week, then you got initial feedback on it, so you can have revised that, or maybe you've changed your idea, and you're trying to decide between several of them. That's all fine. So we will have as much, probably up to 30, 40 minutes at the end of class, which should be enough time to give feedback to everybody and make sure your idea is on track before you move forward anymore. Because remember, you're committing to this for 8 weeks, so the more rock solid you can be on what the idea is, what are my comps, what is the tone, the clearer vision of it that you can get before you've even written a single word, the better off you'll generally be. We might have time. I'm not quite sure if we'll have time yet, because we do have a good number of students, to talk about theme and argument, which can be something you might not really be able to access or conceive of until your project is entirely written. Or it might be something that helps you from the very early stages, and coming up with just some ideas for the themes of your story, or sort of watching the pachinko ball fall down the slats and sort of seeing where it rests. So that references to Arcane. Then what I mean is you want to sort of let the ball fall wherever it's gonna fall, which means that you have to start trying not to push your ideas too hard in one direction or the other. You sort of see where it is ending up, or where it's landing, and what the movie is ending up being, regardless of what you originally thought of it as. And that can be a nice way to just allow things to not get too complicated, and not, if you're forcing everything to go a certain way, or you're changing things because you're like, oh, I would like it a little better like that, even though I can tell the idea wants to be something else, you might find yourself just drifting off course. So we will talk about ways of looking at theme and dramatic argument even from the very beginning, from the early conceptual stages of the story, in order to kind of guide where that story is going. Okay, and then, of course, we'll have lots of time for questions, so there won't be you don't have to save all the questions to the end. You can leave questions in the chat, which is, again, on the left-hand side of your screen, called Free Bootcamp Class. So, I will type in there right now. Questions and comments here. Okay, so let's get going. I can see a few folks here who were here for the intro class, which is great, and maybe a few new ones too. That's all very good. We'll pretty quickly go through just our early discussion and a recap of a couple of the things we talked about last week. So if you are new and you did not get to talk last week and want to introduce yourself, feel free to unmute and tell us about yourself. Have you written scripts before? What's your sort of level of experience? Why the interest in screenwriting? What kind of genres do you like? Anything you want to say about yourself, feel free to unmute and speak now.
Or 641.
Hi, I'll go first.
Go ahead.
Hi. They call me Danny. I use pen names, so that's all right. I do have a little bit of experience writing scripts before, but last time I had a lot of help, so this is going to be interesting.
Okay, great. You mean a lot of help, like a collaborator?
Yeah, it was a pretty interesting collaborative work. Bunch of kids from different countries got together and wrote something together.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Yeah, this will be, obviously, if you're writing on your own versus with a team, might take some getting used to. Might take some different skills than you've used before, but good that you have some experience. And what kind of genres are you into? What do you want to write for the course?
Oh gosh, I'm basically into everything. Mystery and horror, usually, and then I tend to do action, adventure, and comedy to balance it out. Awesome. I'm actually in a bit of a reversed role right now, where instead of writing the screenplays, I write the challenges. So and let other people do it.
What do you mean by write the challenges?
Yeah. I end up writing challenges for other people to write screenplays or whatever else they want about. So it's a prompts? Reverse collaborative role. Yeah, kind of like that.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, we have some prompt channels on ScriptCamp as well. If you scroll down, you can find a picture prompt and character prompt every day. There's a new one up around 10 a.m. So those are like it's like a little daily contest that if you enter
Oh,
it.
I
You can
love
win our
those.
you can win script coins, which you can spend on fun merch and also membership if you get enough of them. So, thanks for that, Danny.
No problem.
Let's see who else. Who else did not talk last time or is new this time and wants to tell us your experience level that you have, your interest. What kind of stuff do you want to write? Why screenwriting? Anything about yourself?
Hey, I'm Razima, and I'm new. I am a novice, but I've been writing all of my life. I love writing so much. I love movies, and I want to write screenplays because I have like these. I have a lot of ideas that I want to see on screen. Because I see things on TV and movies, and I just want something to. I want to represent myself. I want to see myself something that I wrote on screen. You know, it's just that you know that feeling of that accomplishment of getting something done. But I really just enjoy the act of writing it itself. I write mostly. I kind of can write anything. But I just write mostly. I'm writing fantasy. I'm working on action screenplay, also a dramedy, um, and another fantasy, a short story that actually can become. I think it actually could become like a sitcom, not a sitcom, but like a show or something like that.
Sure.
But
Yeah, short stories get
yeah.
adapted into movies or TV shows pretty often. Um, Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, wanting to see
You're
your
welcome.
stuff on screen is for sure like I think why a lot of people gravitate towards this because you know, having the words on paper is one thing, and having it actually realized in a visual medium with real actors, a real director, real all the collaborative art forms that come together to make it just so much better than what it is. That's something very appealing to a lot of people who are interested in this. You should, of course,
Mm-hmm.
ready yourself to not actually get anything on screen for like a decade plus of doing this just because it's like so difficult to actually get something made. And the first couple steps are almost always going to be like one, get obscenely good at writing, which takes that's years on its own. So as it's great to want to see your stuff get realized. Of course, we all do. I've never had a feature produced either. But yeah, also just be kind of untethering from your ideas a little bit and make sure that you're not getting too attached or too stuck on any one of them. Like we have to not we're not just trying to become someone who has written a movie. You're trying to become this person who can write unlimited movies because that's sort of like that's the foundation of that's who gets hired. We're not the people who get hired in Hollywood are not people who wrote one good thing. They're looking for writers to hire. So yeah, one day if you stick with that long enough, you will see something on screen. And thank you for all that. And yeah, action
Yeah,
and fantasy. Yeah,
you're
I
welcome.
write both action and fantasy myself, so that's great to hear. Let's see.
Cool.
Anyone else? Anyone else want to say your experience level or what you've written before or what you want to hear more about in these classes? Okay, we'll move on for now, but let us know in the chat as we go, and I will be checking back to read the chat frequently. So we want to know about you. We want to know what you're looking for, what you're trying to get out of this, what has drawn you to this, why write a movie, all these things. So feel free to chime in. And yeah, we need to obviously make sure to be reading professional scripts. A lot of people ask, where do I start? I'm a complete novice. Where do I begin? What software do I get? How much do I spend on editing programs? How many classes do I buy? What am I supposed to do in that way? But like the answer is almost always just going to be you have to start reading a lot. So that is where you start. You must start reading at least one full script cover to cover every single week. I recommend 3 a week. You're going to learn more from that, and you're going to. It doesn't take that long to read. Movies are intended to be read in approximately the same amount of time that it would have taken to watch it. So if you had time to watch movies or TV during the week, then you have time to read movies or TV during the week, maybe before bed. You absolutely must take time to do this. Soon, in just a minute, we'll ask about things that our campers read in the preceding week. Let's just go over a couple more of the basics and things first. So remember, This is going to be a first draft. Is it going to be good at the end of 8 weeks? No, probably not. But remember that no script needs to be actually good. You need to detach from your ideas, because you remember that I need to stop saying remember, because you know that in the best case scenario, your idea will be bought and developed and rewritten and directed and edited and all these things that are going to change it again and again and again. If you really, really have ideas that cannot be improved by collaboration or only by minimal collaboration, you should be writing novels or web comics. You should not be trying to write feature films, because what is a script? Is it just a story? No, it's an invitation to create a business that will employ over 100 people and move tens of millions of dollars around. So you can see how, like, there's this huge gap between people who you look at just the complexity of a script and you're like, this is just a 90-page document, and everyone who writes these, it all looks the same on the page, more or less. We have the same font and the same formatting and all this stuff. But then you have to remember the gulf of quality between someone who has just started and between someone who's been doing this for 10 years or so. It's not going to be immediately just evident from your first glance on a script. You have to, like, learn to read them and know what to look for and know how structure works and all these things. So it's like 9 skills in one to be a screenwriter, and the most important thing you can focus on is just becoming this generator of unlimited ideas and developing the skills necessary to execute them consistently on a quick time frame, so within 8 to 12 weeks and with a high level of quality. You should not rely on this course or any course to coach you into writing a great script, or a script that will go anywhere, or get you meetings or reps, or make you money, or anything like that. It takes many years of writing to get to that level. So just, this is work. This takes a long time. No one starts out good at this. So,
excuse me, Connor.
go ahead.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. Is there a way to raise your hand in this program? Like, give a little, like, raise your hand if you want to say something or ask a question?
When I call when I call, I'm like, who has a comment on this? I can look at the chat and then I can see who unmutes their mic. So yes, there is, but I just have to be looking at it in order to. There's not like a ringtone or something like that. But you can also just chime in, just like wait till there's a brief pause or whatever, and then just say what you want to say. Or you can leave a comment in the chat, and then I check back every once in a while, so I can also just look at those. But go ahead. What's your question?
Okay, and I'm sorry, I'm just adapting to this technology of the Discord. And I was trying to sign up for the $49 a month membership, and it booted me off because I just want to let it be known that you need to know what your password is to sign up on the Discord.
Know what your password is, meaning your
when you sign up. So if you do one of those automatic, like everything I have is Apple, so it memorizes everything on the keychain. And I ended up getting kicked off, so I had to come up with my own password, and I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay, thanks for that. Yeah, I mean, I had not thought that would be an issue with anyone. I don't have the keychain service or the thing that you're talking about, so it has not come up for me, but I can talk to Nacho about this. He's our co-founder. He's in the chat right there. And we can look at if that will be a problem. So thanks for bringing it up.
Thank you for doing this. I'm really excited about it. I'm learning a lot from you guys. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, just a button. I had the same problem, but it sorted itself out.
Okay.
There was just some problem getting it to remember the password, but yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
Good to know. Thanks, guys. We also have, if you scroll up a little bit, there's a suggestion box channel in the Discord. So you can, there's also a website help channel. So if you have questions or just need assistance with the website or with Discord, then you can leave your comments there as well. Okay, so
I actually have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, about when you were saying the idea, because I do have an idea that's like my baby. And I really want it to be a movie. It's kind of been like me working on it like internally for like over 10 years. So, but it's really, it's 3 worlds. It's not just that one script. It actually, that one script will come with 3 other worlds that has like sequels to each of them. So
that would not be a good.
I was thinking that
would
maybe
not be what I would suggest to write for an 8-week boot camp in that case.
Oh no, I'm definitely not doing that for that. Yeah.
Right. And so like if you've had these things you've been working on for years, or multiple universes or anything like that, that's all great. But so the camps are more focused on learning how to write and how to organize a feature film, and how to it's like going to the gym. We're not digging for gold. So you can pick something that you're not that attached to, and that's actually like a little bit freeing, because then you're like, oh, it doesn't have to be perfect. It can kind of just be how, it just turns out however good I am at the time. And then you can go back and revise it later, or you could just move on. No one's saying you even have to go back and revise. You'll learn more from just writing more bad ideas than if you spent, a long time trying to get one perfect.
Yeah, I just made up one just now, so I'm good with it. Thank you. I just wanted to ask that right quick. So thank you.
Great, sure. And yeah, if you have like huge epic ideas like that have multiple worlds or multiple sequels already charted out, you'll normally be better off writing them as books, just because books allow you to have that sort of unlimited room and unlimited space, and you can write sequels to books. You can't really write sequels to unfinished, or, to scripts which are considered unfinished artistic expressions. That like a script is not even legally a work of art. It's just considered a blueprint for one. So maybe think about writing those things as books first, and then adapting them later down the line.
Cool.
Any other questions? All right, let's keep going. Yep, thank you for that, Nacho. There's the link to enroll in membership, scriptcamp.net/membership. So yeah, remember, you got to write all the bad scripts to get to the good ones. I'm not going to go way too into this today, just because we have a good number of students. We're already half an hour in, and we want to make sure that we are getting enough time to go over everyone's log lines. But I will just leave this up for a second and just very quickly summarize how to be a feature writer I'll just highlight the most important steps. The step that you are probably on is step number 1, which is get really, really good at writing movies. That first step takes years to do. So like if you have not been writing scripts for years, and you have not written like several dozen feature-length projects, don't worry about anything under the step 1 line. Step 2 is, in fact, stop. Actually go back to step 1. You didn't really do step 1, because a lot of people try to move on before they are ready, and they're trying to query, but when they've written one script, they don't have a portfolio. They don't know what an act break is to save their life. They've never rewritten anything in their career. You get the idea. So how to be a feature writer is get really, 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 really good at writing movies. Also, like I mentioned before, read a ridiculous amount of scripts. Very quickly moving through the rest, you'll have to make a portfolio. So write 3 to 5 amazing scripts. You need to enter contests and fellowships, and also query, and also meet people. Try to land a manager and sign with them, and get a script and develop a script with them to take out wide and take general meetings on. From there, you will perhaps take specific meetings on a script, or just work with producers or other development people to work on an assignment or spec even more. You're going to rewrite a bunch and do a bunch of free work, and just do that like 500 times as various things fall apart. And then eventually you will get something sold and produced, and join the Writers Guild, and party until you die. But don't worry about most of those things, because we're on step 1 pretty much, or we're talking about step 1, which is get really good at writing movies. So here's some reasons to write a movie. 1, you want to be a professional at this. You want to be more skilled at the craft. You want to direct the movie yourself, or you maybe just want to do this as a hobby for personal enjoyment. But remember that almost nobody just writes like one movie, then gets that made. That's like saying you want to play in one NFL game, because you remember the number of practices and scrimmages and everything. I don't know anything about sports. Whatever you have to do to get into the NFL, you will have to have done so many of those things that, like, saying that you just want to play in one game is a little silly. So, idea to first draft in 8 weeks. That's what we're going to do here. So, logline, sketchbook, story beats, summary, scene cards. Then we go to pages. Go to pages being this term that is used often in the industry, and that means moving on from pre-writing and outlining, and actually go into formatting and writing out nailing down those concrete scenes. So logline is what? The 1-sentence expression of the entire story that would be used to maybe hook someone in to get them interested in reading your script, and it's also to keep you on track when writing the script. So you want to never stray too far from the logline that you've written, or you might need to change the logline itself. Step 2, sketchbook. That's something that maybe you've already started on this week, and it is going to be just a collage of all your influences and ideas, all your snippets of dialogue, or pictures, or ideas for characters, or moments, or things that you have to have in that script. That's all going to go in the sketchbook. Story beat summary is like a list of ordered events. Scene cards is a full paragraph for every single scene with the pages that it will take place on. And then finally, once that is in place, which will be in 3 weeks from today, then you're going to finally move to actually writing the pages. So we don't just jump in. You have to do the groundwork. You have to do the planning. So let's talk about premise a little bit. We don't have to do this whole discussion thing, but this is just basically the driving force by why things are happening on screen. Remember, what is a movie? It's a snippet of an theoretical little reality where false people called characters live, and baked inside the premise is the main character, the world, the conflict, antagonist, perhaps, time frame, or hook. This is going to be like the beating heart of your whole story, and is just really essential in pitching or explaining what you're doing. This one sentence answer to the question, what is the movie about? So this is the criteria by which people judge if they want to read your work. Premise will imply a genre, which will determine who would be able to make that movie, for instance. Stronger premises are just considered more marketable, more likely to be read and produced and become movies. A good premise is a strong barometer of quality of the script overall that establishes this confidence in your readers before they even open to page one. And those who have been in many of my classes before have heard me talk about this sort of invisible confidence bar. Like you have, imagine like a health bar in a video game. You know, Link has like the little hearts on the top of the screen or whatever. And every slight hit, everything that bumps the reader a little bit and makes them say, does this person know what they're doing? I'm not so sure. Every one of those is going to diminish that confidence bar a little bit. And once it gets to critical levels, they will just start skimming. And as they skim, you just hemorrhage confidence until it's gone and they have stopped reading. So keep that confidence high. Don't choose things that will throw off your readers or make them immediately question, does this person know what they're doing? Don't think that you're special and that you should include a bunch of pictures or strange colors or weird formatting in your script. Or maybe you're going to put one page in Helvetica for some reason. Or maybe you're going to include audio clips or any of these things. It's like, it's not that the medium will never evolve so that no one will ever be able to do any of those things. It's that you don't want to damage the confidence bar before you have broken in, or that you're signed, or that any of these things that add armor to the confidence bar. You know, the fact that you are a signed working writer who's sold multiple scripts before is like, you know, steel armor on the confidence bar. And meaning that even small typos or things won't knock it down as far. But if you're just starting out, that bar is very vulnerable. And having a typo in your first line, having a typo in your first word, these things make me immediately go, did you even reread this? And they are going to hurt you a lot. You sort of have less room for mistakes early on, and the more amazing your story and your script is, the more you sort of earn, you know, bonus hit points or whatever to continue this belabored video game health metaphor, but you earn, you know, bonus health that might, you know, otherwise have damaged you more if your reader had read a typo in the first line. If they read your first typos on page 50, no one cares. So remember, it's about building and maintaining reader confidence and making them feel as if they are in good hands, the hands of a competent professional who is going to show them an entertaining hour and a half in exchange for their attention, because it is our job to entertain the audience's attention for as long as they are willing to give it. Which is a quote by someone I cannot remember at this point. But what does that mean, as long as they are willing to give it? Well, it's a lot of work to, you know, how many amazing shows or movies have you recommended to someone? You're like, you have to check this out. It's on Netflix. You can just click it, and they just still don't, because it takes a certain amount of time commitment and perhaps you could say effort even just to watch something amazing, let alone read something by an amateur. It's like a lot of effort and a lot of work, especially if you're expecting that person to then meaningfully respond to it and help you make it better. It's like, you know, if it's the first painting you've ever done, and then you give it to an art critic, and you're like, how do I get this into a museum? They're going to probably look at it and be like, well, you first need to paint for 10 more years, then come back and give me that next painting. So try to keep the confidence bar high. Try not to give your reader reasons to stop reading. This premise that you pick is going to act as this North Star to guide the construction of your story, and having a strong premise is just going to be, or like becoming the person that can come up with strong premises is just an essential first step in becoming a working screenwriter. So, suggestions of things to pick for bootcamp. Don't do true stories, anthologies, rewrites, or adaptations. This means nothing you have written before. If you've written some version of it as like a short story or something, and you're like, I want to expand that and change that into a feature film, that would probably be okay. Just try not to do anything that's going to require a heavy adherence to reality or another story as it already stands, meaning no adaptations. Don't be like, I'm stuck on chapter 3 because I can't get chapter 3 of The Grapes of Wrath just right. It's like you need to pick something for an 8-week boot camp that you are able to finish in 8 weeks, which means that I recommend you don't do time travel. Just don't do it. And there's always someone who takes this as a challenge and who's like, oh, he said not to do time travel. I've got to do time travel. And then they always regret it. I've never seen someone not regret picking a time travel movie for a boot camp. So probably don't. And don't take that as a challenge. Probably don't do a historical. That one you might take as a challenge because it is like, if it's something that you've already done research into or you've read a bunch of books about, maybe you've read 100, Regency England books, so you're like, I can definitely write a Regency England movie, that's okay. Or if you've studied, Renaissance era India in your college major or something like that, maybe you have like a lot of groundwork done in terms of that. Research and historical setting and period. But if you don't have any grounding in the historical period and it's not even set in your country, then you might want to reconsider doing a historical, just because we want to make sure that we're putting in the research to do those things the right way. And it's unlikely that 8 weeks is enough time to do all the stuff that you have, especially if you're just starting at this. It's probably not enough time to adequately do justice to a proper historical movie. It could be something inspired by a true story, or perhaps inspired by something that happened to your life, or it's similar to something in real life. Just probably don't pick something that requires you to get all of the details right, because then you're just not going to make that much progress. It's a good time to take a big swing and write something wacky or crazy, or something that would never get made, or that you've always sort of wanted to do but you've been putting off. Just some fun idea that you can work on while you're building the skills and the fundamentals. If you don't have an idea yet, think of, what are 2 genres I've always wanted to see together? Or what's something they don't make anymore? What's a dead genre that I want to put my own twist on, or put in some interesting new location, or have some fascinating new POV at the center of it? All these things can just, like, if you're struggling with what idea to choose, remember, ideas don't matter that much, and it's more important to become a person who can generate unlimited amazing ideas, and also just build the skills of writing, of conceiving, starting, and finishing full-length feature scripts. Also, like I mentioned before, just get used to the idea of sharing all your work with me, fellow students, and everyone, even at these early stages. No one's going to steal your work in a class, I promise you. It can be difficult to hear these big notes early, but that's just a reality of the business. If you're going to continue in the boot camp beyond the free first class, you should use a real name. So you can right-click on your Discord avatar and click change nickname and change it to your real first name. Or if you really don't want to use a first name and want to use a pen name, you can do that, but just make sure it is a real name. We can't use usernames in the industry. So that should be by next class if you've not already done so. All right, logline. Let me check for questions real quick. Crime says, I miss mid-budget romantic comedies set in New York. Well, mid-budget, in fact, mid-budget everything has sort of faded away to some extent. Mid-budget action, mid-budget, like, adventure movies. Remember all those movies that were, like, sort of, like, military action movies? They used to make a bunch of these, like, the 80s action movie has sort of faded away. The feature comedy has faded away. A lot of things just don't really get made anymore. Danny says, I wonder why mid-budget faded away. Well, because theaters have gotten very expensive to go to, and people are turning up to, audiences are turning out, and also COVID really affected things, obviously, but audiences with those difficulties in place have only been, or the perception was that they would only turn up for things that they knew they would want to see on a big screen. For instance, we could say Marvel movies, because they might have some familiarity with the character and just sort of get used to that genre. And the sort of event-based movies, studios started to see them as the only thing that would be able to make a profit, because unless you're guaranteed that built-in fan base, they wouldn't think that audiences would turn up and be able to make that movie profitable. So some stories have just, quote, moved to TV, like comedy, for instance. You don't really see feature-length comedy movies in theaters anymore. Except rarely. There's a couple a year, but this used to be a huge genre, and now it's shrunken a lot because they're like, oh, that's TV now. Now, the feature theatrical film space is for big event movies, horror thriller releases, and the occasional prestige star vehicle kind of thing. That's not always going to be the case, and things are always changing. But you got to just write what you want and not worry about, is the market going to make this or whatever, mostly just because 99% of things never get made in the first place. And second of all, because trends are always changing. I mean, they might say the musical is dead. And they said that for many years. Then La La Land comes out, an original musical that is up for Best Picture and wins a bunch of other Oscars and is a huge critical and commercial success and is not based on anything. And they're like, well, I don't know. Why did that succeed? Why were we saying the musical was dead? And The Greatest Showman comes out and like blows everyone's minds. Again, making tons of money on an original score, not even an adaptation. So like, were they right to say the musical was dead? Maybe, but at the same time, it just takes one counterexample to prove any of these things not true. So it's not really worth worrying too much about the trends of what's working or what's profitable. Certain things will always be makeable. You know, low budget horror. There will always be a market for that in every country and every time. It's just easy to make. The audience will show up for anything, and you don't need big stars to drive it. So that, for instance, is a way that a lot of people break in because that will always be sort of in vogue to some extent. And then, you know, there's some stuff that will always be difficult. You know, a big ensemble Western, for instance. I've written one of these. You know, that's going to be tougher to make unless your name is Martin Scorsese. And even then, you will not always be able to get everything you want for it. So times change, and don't worry too much about what's popular or what's not. Marcus suggests National Treasure for being a sort of mid-budget action-adventure type movie. Yeah, that's the sort of like mid-budget original, or somewhat original. Is that actually an adaptation of something? But yeah, that's sort of like mid-budget action-adventure movie of the early to mid-2000s that does not really get made that much anymore. What's that one that they just did one? Is it called... I know it's not called Jungle Cruise, but it's called The Lost City or something like that, with Channing Tatum and Sandra Bullock, and it's like, yeah, this is one of those jungle adventure movies they used to do. Danny says, showing up from every Marvel movie, guilty as charged. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's not saying they're all bad. It's just saying that's, to some extent, why every movie has to be massive and make hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars now, just because of the mold that has been set by the giant, you know, movie corp people. Okay, so let's look at loglines, and we will have some time to look at your loglines as well. So good number of, oh yeah, we got like 9 students in class, so that's great. And if you did some work on your logline last week, then you'll have some revisions for us this week. Let's go over the basics first before we post them. Remember, this is the entire story distilled down to a sentence or two, but almost every time I see two, I know that it can be one. We want to imply visual action. We want to know what is the inciting incident, who is the protagonist, what do they want, what is in their way, what happens if they fail. So all these things are going to be kind of stirred into this one sentence, that if you don't know where to start with this, you can start with this template. When the inciting incident occurs, remember, this is the one event that pushes the story into motion, the first domino to fall into the others. An adjective protagonist must conflict before stakes. That might also be in order to stakes, or it might be or else the ticking clock, something like that. But these are the basic questions that will be in your reader or audience's mind, even if you don't use this template. So make sure that these questions are being answered, or the answer is being heavily suggested in the text that you have, if you're not using it. So let's look at what a reader's looking for a little bit. Oh, Danny has to go. Thanks for coming, Danny. We'll see you next time. Let's look at what our readers looking for. So we want stories that have the highest possible stakes for their genre, meaning life and death and things like war, action, horror. Perhaps it's friendship and something like a comedy. Perhaps it's love and something like a romance or a drama. Maybe it's revenge. Maybe it's a home. Maybe it's to escape. Maybe it's freedom. You know, something that you just unarguably can say everyone can want that sort of thing, because a large part of storytelling is showing us someone trying to, a fictional, you know, a fake scenario of a person trying to get something that we also want, but in a way that we, or, you know, by means that we could never do or would never do. So that's kind of just a big cornerstone of storytelling. Not every story is because of that. Sometimes we want to sort of see people doing stuff that we would do or that we want to do. Or things that we could imagine maybe one day doing. Like there are genres that kind of support this a little bit more. Dramedies and slice of life and things like that. Certain types of drama just allow you to show people living normal lives where they're doing things that maybe one day you yourself will get to. But ultimately, there is this element of wish fulfillment in almost all storytelling where we really have to have the main character want something that we can understand. It's not to say that every character has to be relatable in like an annoying way where you make them, they're all 20-somethings in New York. You don't have to do that, because that is not even in itself that relatable to a lot of people. I don't even know why that was assumed to be the most relatable demographic for a long time. Probably just because in TV and the movies, the most relatable demographic, as far as a lot of people who make and producers and studio heads and things like this in the industry, is just attractive people. The attractive demographic is considered more relatable, or at least you want to watch them doing things more. But that's, I think we all know this is silly on its own. And not every movie has to be about attractive, awesome people that we think that we'd want to be just like. Got a comment here. Dorothy Gaming says, Hi, Dorothy. Thanks for joining. You're welcome to download Discord and join us on Discord as well if you want, and participate directly in the chat by using our free bootcamp class chat channel. So if you want to do that, we'll hope to see you here. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah. So, movies are about showing a person trying to get something that we also want in a way that we could never or would never do. That means that we have to have loglines that sort of suggest what the stakes are going to be. If you have a horror script and it does not seem like life and death is in the stakes, and we're going to be like, what's wrong here? I hope you have something way better. We also want to kind of imply the size of a story, something that does not seem too big, which would be like, for instance, you have a bunch of sequels planned, or you have like a massive world to explore, or generation upon generation of characters. Something like that might be better suited to a book, a 3-hour epic, or a miniseries or a TV show. Whereas ideas that are too small might be about something that can be resolved pretty quickly or pretty easily, and might be better suited to a web series or a one-act play or to a short story. So, is a movie about a guy who just is hungry and wants to eat dinner, does that sound too big or too small?
Small.
Too small. Yep. So what about a guy?
Yeah, small.
Yeah, I would agree. It sounds small. What about a movie about a guy who is starving and he wants to eat? He wants to get dinner. Does that start to sound more reasonable for a feature?
Yeah.
Like a, I don't know, like Castaway kind of thing. Yeah.
I'd watch that.
You'd watch that? Okay. So yeah, we're getting there. So that's what I mean by that. Remember that the size of the story is related to the stakes. If it's a guy is just hungry and wants to eat dinner, he might just go to the vending machine. Then he might get the snack bar and go upstairs and eat it. And that would be like a 3-minute short, maybe, where nothing much happens. Or maybe there's interesting conflict along the way, but it might still just feel too small. Like if you have an hour and a half of a guy trying to get into the vending machine and get his, granola bar, and you filled 2 hours with really interesting conflict, it might still feel too small for a feature film, because it's like, why was this not just a short? Or why was this not just a comedy sketch or something like that? So remember, features, it's like a short story. You can't have way too much. You have to sort of just read a lot of scripts and write a lot of scripts to start to feel out what fits in the bandwidth, in the boundaries of a script. Does somebody have a question? Oh, maybe not. I misheard. Okay. So let me check the chat real quick. Depends on the meal. Okay, fair enough. Okay, so we want to imply a story that feels right. It needs to feel like a feature. Okay, so let's look at. Do we have any more slides, or do we want to just go right into? Let's go through just a little bit more. So remember, movies are visual and dynamic and about people doing stuff. It should not feel like it's about people just sitting in a room thinking about stuff or just discussing stuff ad infinitum, unless it's a courtroom movie, in which the discussion might be a really key part of the action. But your story should imply that mostly we're going to be tracking what's going on through visual action and tangible, concrete goalposts, meaning that we can tell when benchmarks towards the character's goals have been accomplished. And if your character's goals are things like, I need to reconcile with my father, I need to come to terms with a death. Like, that's come to terms with is sort of like the biggest no-no phrase, for me at least, because that implies there will be no tangible or concrete goalposts throughout this story. Remember, movies are an internal journey interwoven with an external one, and you can imply the internal journey as much as you want. we might say, have you guys seen Little Miss Sunshine? I would hope you have seen this great dramedy from 2004 or 2005. It's about...
Heck yeah.
Oh, you have seen it. Great. Okay, so this is about remember, the main character is the depressed uncle to this small family who is trying to... he's recovering from a suicide attempt, and he's trying to get over a failed relationship and a lot of grief that he has inside him. But how do we actually convey all that? What is the actual tangible, concrete goalpost of that movie?
To get the girl to the beauty pageant. But
Yes.
I actually thought the main character is the dad, because he is the farthest to go.
It's an ensemble, so each of the characters does have their own arc. If I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure Steve Carell's character is sort of like the protagonist, or maybe you could say
It's one of those two.
Yeah.
I thought it was either the dad or him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was a little girl.
Yeah, you could make in an ensemble movie like that, which has like 4 or 5 pretty well-defined characters. You can argue one way or the other. Usually a big clue is going to be, who's the first person that we fade in on? Who's the first person that we see? I think it is the girl in that movie, though she doesn't have a ton of agency just as far as the narrative goes, so don't worry about that stuff too much. I guess what I'm focusing on, or what I'm getting at by bringing up Little Miss Sunshine, is the fact that you could say, I want to do a movie about a guy getting over depression and getting over a failed relationship and a suicide attempt, and he needs to come to terms with all of those things. And that's what that movie is. But if you were writing a logline, you'd be like, this guy needs to hold together a struggling family in order to get them on a road trip from this place to this place before this event happens, right? And then all the rest of that, all of that great thematic and inner character stuff, that's all implied by the logline of, we want to make sure we set up the wording in such a way that we're like, oh, okay, I get that by going on this tangible, concrete quest, this main character will find a way to deal with those internal issues. Logan says, South Park KFC Scarface parody episode, one of the closest real ensembles in film. Oh, you were talking about the same movie, right? So yeah, it's pretty, it's a pretty balanced ensemble. From having just a small number of characters, you can do a more balanced ensemble. The more characters you have, the more difficult it becomes to balance an ensemble. But if you're just starting out, don't write an ensemble movie. Write a single protagonist movie. I promise you will regret it if you try to reach beyond that. Okay, so any questions on what we're looking for in a logline? Elements that make strong loglines, or things that shouldn't be in loglines, or maybe you have a question about any questions about how to write these?
No, I don't think mine will apply for this week, but I just have a question on the unrecommended ScriptCamp projects. To what level extent are like historicals? Like, for example, would like Goodfellas, which is based on a true story and they all use real names apparently, or like most of them, would that be a historical, or is that no?
Well, if it's a true story, then it has to be, doesn't it? Because it's something that really happened in the past.
I think the protagonist, he was real, and then like, but it's like, it's not. I wouldn't say it's formatted like a biopic, which is like way more. It like feels way more like, or like historical. Like, for example, with Saving Private Ryan, of course that one is also voided or not recommended because it's like a war epic. But is that like historical or?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so all these are kind of not recommended.
I wouldn't recommend trying to write an ensemble 3-hour historical war epic. No, for an 8-week boot camp. Something like Goodfellas, if it's like, especially if it's based on real people and based on, if it's not just inspired by a broader historical era or something like that, then it would be even more difficult, because you'll feel, even if you like, the more you feel that you need to get things right, or that you need to get things, and that might mean things that are truer or closer to real life, or closer to another story that already exists, like an adaptation of something, that all that just adds up your research time. And I have never seen someone complete a time travel script, or have I seen someone finish a historical? I don't think I have in a boot camp either. So yeah, it's not that I'm not gonna like go to your house and slap you if you try to do one of these, but you might find yourself slapping yourself if you do.
Yeah. I originally didn't plan mine to be like historical at most, like extremely loosely, because it's it's real, and like I guess the location is kind of important. Um, but then I did a smart move, I guess, because I made a dumb mistake and thought that this was week 2. So I did all my sketchbook research for this
great.
week, or so maybe since I guess I have a week up and it doesn't seem like it's that like hard. But anyways, like yeah, kind of researching like the Chicago area and like the evolution of organized crime and like street crime, and like yeah, and just like looking at it and like looking at kind of like similar films that take place in Chicago or use a lot of like gang violence. Um, like there's varying degrees of how much they care about historical accuracy.
How much do they
And
care?
like
Who's
how
they?
weird, or I mean like across film, of course.
Oh, right. You just mean like filmmakers writ
Like,
large.
it's like I am kind of trying to choose how real do I want it, if that makes sense. Like I don't know.
I see. Okay. Well, so my recommendation for the boot camp would be not that real. Would be the right road to go down. The more research you have to do, the more you will struggle to write a full script in 8 weeks.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, I mean, if you want to write, I'm going to write a gang story set in 1930s Chicago or something like that, and you don't expect or like have this expectation that it will be particularly illuminating about the early days of Prohibition or something like that. You just want to write a story set in that time. That would be like more reasonable, I think.
Yeah, like for example, Untouchables, everyone in it is real, but like the plot, like that's not how it went. Or like they use some real details, but apparently Elliot Ness was not some like shining underdog hero.
Most people aren't in real life, but that's the movies for you. So anyway, that's my guidance. The more research you have to do, the more you will regret having picked that idea. is all I will say. Question in the chat. What are some examples of effective ways of implying stakes in a logline for an execution-dependent story? If you do a good enough job with this, then it won't really seem execution-dependent anymore. Execution-dependent stories it's sort of the opposite of high concept in some ways, so we might just have to define that really quickly. High concept meaning high reliance on concept in order to sell that idea, which does not mean more complicated subject material or really anything pertaining to the events of the film in any way. High concept means something that is a self-contained premise that has a strong hook or element of irony that all leads to this just being a nice package for pitching and presentation. So execution dependent is going to be the opposite of that, wherein you do not have a particular sense of irony to the journey. You don't have a super strong hook. You don't have a clear main character, maybe, or maybe it just doesn't seem like maybe an art house movie would be very execution dependent, right? And the way that you would imply the stakes in those is if the stakes are just so low that it doesn't feel right for a movie, perhaps to just increase the stakes, in which case it might change the idea itself a little bit. If you are adamant that you're like, no, this is the movie I have to write. I have to write this movie with low stakes. My advice for you is find why this matters to the character. Look at a movie like The Black Belt by Randall Green. It's about a little kid trying to win a black belt, or like lots of Randall Green scripts. There's one called The Swimsuit Issue, which is about a kid trying to raise money he's a high school kid who tries to raise money so that he can go visit his girlfriend at camp. And it's like, it seems like pretty as low stakes as you can get. But if we emphasize in the logline why this matters to the person that we're following, and it's like, he needs to go and do this trip, or else she's going to break up with him, or he feels that she's going to break up with him if he can't go see her. Okay, there's the urgency. There's the stakes. So emphasize why it matters to your protagonist is my advice for you. Let's take any other questions before we keep going. He says thank you. That's fine. All right, so you can look at how's it been done, how original is it. I mean, this isn't as important as just conceiving, writing, and finishing scripts in a reasonable amount of time. But you can look at like, how's this been done? And if the answer is yes, look at these questions with high quality or popularity recently, so like within the last 10 years or longer for iconic stuff, or with the same take or style, approach, or POV. If only one of those applies, then you're fine. You just want to watch out if there's 2 or more. Anything else? Yeah, what's a hook? A unique and fascinating sense of irony, new or surprising point of view, some variation or interesting mashup of otherwise familiar elements, which makes a fan of that genre. Remember, the fans of your genre have seen like everything. Makes them say, I have to check that out. And that's because, that's our goal, is we tell our idea to anyone and they're like, oh, I have to read that. Keep in mind, though, you're trying to get people to say this who they read scripts all day. So the work, it's difficult to write something that would immediately grab someone who does this all day. It's like you're trying to sell, water to an ocean salesman. What's an ocean salesman? What am I talking about? You're trying to sell sand to a sand salesman? Something like that, where, or trying to sell meat to a butcher, right? They have so much of it and they have so much experience with it that you have to stand out and stand above the crowd to really wow them. But your goal for right now should not be to write amazing movies. Your goal right now is to become a person who knows how to write movies and has written a bunch of movies. So don't worry way too much about having an amazing hook or having something that will blow the market up or sell or anything like that. I'll just leave this page up so you can look at just some extra tips. But I do want to start posting loglines just because we have a lot of students and we're in a second half of class. So let's see. Post your title, genre, and logline. And if you were here last week and this is a revision, please mark it as such in the chat. Let's see what we have today. So, loglines, please post them in the free bootcamp class text channel, and I will be reading them, giving feedback on them, and then asking questions of you, so be prepared to unmute and speak out loud about your idea. Let's see what you guys have.
How do you access that part?
So if you're looking for the text channel, go on the left-hand side of your Discord window, and there should be a tab called Discussion if you scroll down far enough. At the bottom of the discussion folder, there is a button that says Free Bootcamp Class. Nacho has just tagged you in the chat channel as well, so you should see a red 1 pop up next to it.
Okay. So just at the very bottom? Oh, I see it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sorry, can you give the assignment again?
Yeah,
the prompt.
You're posting your title, genre, and logline.
Okay. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you, Kevin. The Ghost Bride. Let's see a couple more, then I'll start calling on people to talk about these ideas and answer questions, and we will be revising them live. So let me open up a new document so we can start pasting these in.
Is the title necessary?
If you don't have one, that's okay. You can just put untitled for now.
Can you hear that tapping of my keyboard?
I was hearing it a little bit, but you can just...
Let me turn that down.
Okay, no problem. You can also just mute your mic by clicking the microphone icon in the bottom left of the Discord window.
Okay.
There you go. Just make sure to unmute if you need to speak later. Go ahead, Logan.
Connor, do you remember last week in the free intro where we... Okay. I'll try to look for that myself.
Oh, sorry. Were you asking about your idea that you talked about last week, or do you need a link or something? I can help you if you need to find something.
I need to... We edited my logline last time, and I forgot to put it anywhere.
Oh, okay.
And I just...
What was it called?
Version. It was... I think it was in the document, or like in the section where we did everyone's loglines.
Yeah, I haven't actually been saving those. These are just like temporary little worksheets, so I can try to find it after class for you. But for right now, you might just have to use the version you have.
Yeah, I want to ask you something, like, I guess, in private after class, anyway.
Okay, sure, that's fine. Just let me know.
All right, perfect.
Let's see one more logline posted, then I will start calling them out. Looks like we have a bunch of folks typing. I'm going to paste Kevin's in the chat just for now. Or on the page here. Yeah, was it Give It Back? That was it, wasn't it?
That's correct.
Okay, it should be. I'll search my drive for it after class and can probably find it. Or you can, if you need to search the title, you can search the chat in the top right. Thanks, Carmen. So, a U.S. Marine. So, is there a title and genre with this one too?
I don't have a title. I don't have a title for any log lines that I've written. I just I write a lot of log lines, but I never come up with a title for the most part, unless I'm really going to be working on it. Just only as a means of like inspiring myself, I guess, to start writing it.
Okay, do you have a genre?
So, and then you said the genre, thriller, I think.
Okay.
War thriller, or I didn't want it to be with a lot of blood and guts or anything like that, but just to give, and I have not started writing anything on this at all. It's just a part of my collection of log lines that I'm keeping. I mean, I may never write anything about this, so feel free to steal it. Anyone, if you want to write it, go ahead, because I probably never will, you know.
Okay, well, I'll add it to the document here. Thank you for this.
Is this the one I have to work on, though? Because I don't think that I've narrowed down the one that I really want to work on for this project.
No, you don't.
Is that the one that I was...
No, you don't have to decide right now. You have just by next class, you should have it nailed down, like which one you definitely want to work on. But if you have a few different ideas, you want to like choose between them, we can help you do that today if you prefer, or whatever you've got.
Okay, I just don't want to take up the time in the class doing that.
Okay, fair enough. We just let us know what you've got, and we can. The goal is to have your idea picked by the time next class starts.
Okay, so I was thinking more along the lines of this because it fits into a bigger work, and I figure I can use this opportunity to flesh this out. A Pakistani woman seeking freedom flees her home country only to find dangers far more insidious behind the military housing project.
Okay.
And I know that needs to be majorly, that last part, I know it sounds really, it almost sounds grammatic. I have to really refine that. And I'm actually 4 pages into this one.
Okay.
It's
so
part of a...
You have a full outline and a full plan for it.
Okay, and that's why I signed up. That's why I'm signing up for your classes, Connor, because I'm really bad with the outlining part, and I tend to just start and then just kind of let the characters do what they want to do. So I need to be more organized so that I can have a more cohesive final, product.
Sure, yeah, definitely. Screenwriting is very rarely something you can just sort of start and see where it goes. I think some people do that, but it's much more, much more important to be able to outline and to fully nail everything down first. So if that's what you would prefer to work on, is there a written version of that you can put in the chat that we can help you refine that today?
Yes.
Okay, great. So feel free to post that. And
I do have a question, and I know that... Well, no, go ahead. I'll wait.
I was just going to say thank you to Moonspirit, who also posted, but I can take one more question before I start calling.
No. Go ahead.
Okay, sure. Let's start with Kevin, Ghost Bride. Can you read this out for us?
Sure. It's right there, yeah. Okay, Ghost Bride, genre, horror comedy, logline. When a vaping amateur paranormal detective on a road trip east discovers a spirit that lures victims to the afterlife to wed them, he has a night to save a dysfunctional family of Christian tourists who don't believe in Asian ghosts.
All right. So, thanks for this. The first couple questions that come to me: why vaping?
I don't know, man. I was just trying to throw an adjective in there. I originally had him as a stoner, but
yeah. So I mean, stoner implies a sort of a personality type and a set of interests to it, doesn't it?
Okay.
Whereas what does vaping tell us about a person? I mean, if they're one of those bros who's sort of obsessed with vaping, that's one thing, but I don't really think that that's a stereotype or really on its own or something like that. So this is about as specific to me as like a detective that likes grapes. It's like, okay, but why did we mention it? So do you intend that to be
interesting with grapes
personality, or
the actual stoner part is more, but that was the last minute. Should I change that? It's because he's a ghost detective in that he can see the paranormal, and smoking weed helps him kind of lock it out.
Okay.
Because he needs like timeouts from seeing the paranormal.
Sure.
I mean, is it actually necessary in the logline? Does it add any real interest, or?
I don't think so currently. I mean, it doesn't
Fair
sound
enough.
like quite a different movie. I could see if you did want to go the sort of route of making this more of, like a silly stoner comedy, you might want to mention that he is a stoner, because that does sound important to the plot and important to us understanding who the guy is. So it's up to you there.
Okay.
But just vaping on its own is like, I don't know. He likes chicken. He likes mangoes. I don't know. It's like it's just a thing that it's just like a thing to consume. It doesn't really suggest more about a person.
Okay. Does amateur work in there, or should I just?
When an amateur paranormal detective, what do you mean as opposed to a veteran paranormal detective? Like, you mean he just started, or you mean he's just not very good at it? Is there?
Well, he has just started.
Paranormal detectives to make you.
Yeah.
Journeyman or whatever, right? So what does this mean?
It's just he's starting out, but it's also, I guess, it's like stoner. It's not. It's important to the character, but it doesn't really move the plot. So.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Fair enough.
But
if it's so, yeah. When you pick your adjective, try to pick something that the main character is struggling with, something that makes them more personally connected to whatever is going on. It's the thing of, the detective needs to find the serial killer because the next victim is his wife. That kind of thing. That is always going to be important to highlight if that is there. Or some trait that's otherwise going to just come up in the narrative. So is he like you can see why, I don't know, a guy with a fear of heights that has to climb a mountain is going to be a totally different movie than a super experienced mountain climber. So maybe think of which trait is going to be relevant to this story or make his journey more difficult, or any of these things. And I don't know, maybe saying that he's a brand new, like he just started being a paranormal detective, that would make the journey more difficult. So that's not something to totally discount. I guess I just asked the question just to suss out what is the most important stuff to include here, right? So I'll just leave a blank for you for now, but you have space for a good adjective there. So when a blank paranormal detective on a road trip east, what does this mean, east? East?
Basically,
of America?
No. I'm based in Taiwan, and the story's based in Taiwan because the ghost is a Taiwanese ghost. It's based on folklore here, and that was just trying to be succinct.
It's cool. I understand what you're saying, but do you think an American would immediately assume what this meant, or do you think? I guess almost anyone. Do you think if you maybe like I think you need to say a road trip across Asia? Is that what you mean? Like, I think you need to be more specific with the location, because you can't assume that people will just know what you mean by a road trip east. So yeah, maybe just be more specific there. He discovers a spirit that lures victims to the afterlife to wed them. Okay, he has a night to save. So does he just happen to discover this, or is this one of his cases?
It's kind of a case. He discovers how it works is if someone in the family dies and they're unmarried, basically a woman is unmarried, the family will prepare a wallet full of cash, and whoever takes the wallet has to marry the woman. They have to die first to marry her. The spirit, it's basically a cursed wallet. It's why if you drop your wallet in Taipei, it's pretty safe because no one's going to pick it up because they don't want to get cursed, dragged to the afterlife, and made to marry someone.
Right.
Or they don't want to die, basically. I'm trying to be
right. No, so the question, I guess, is just if you're saying he discovers this happening, that makes it sound like this is in fact a coincidence and is not one of his cases, right?
Okay, well, it's his case. He sees the wallet, but he doesn't want to pick it up. So he goes to look up how to pick it up, and in that time, the family pick it up and share out the money.
So the catalyst is really when is he on? So he's on his road trip, then the road trip is interrupted by him getting hired. Is that how it goes?
No, he's not even hired. He's there to kind of, because he's an amateur. He's kind of like learning about the things, and it's like, oh, this is this case.
Oh, okay.
This is this thing.
Like
I know this.
Adventurer kind of guy who's just sort of open to whatever cases he happens to stumble across in his trip. Is that the deal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is like he encounters this like in the first act, and then like he's like, oh, I better do something about that. Goes back, reads up about it. The wallet's gone.
I mean, I might in that case describe him as something like a wandering paranormal detective in that case, and forget about the road trip because he's not really on a road trip if he's going around solving supernatural cases as he goes. So you might say something like, when a wandering paranormal detective discovers a spirit that lures victims to the afterlife, why does it matter that it's to marry them? So he has a night to save a dysfunctional family of Christian tourists who don't believe in Asian ghosts. I'm struggling to connect this last clause with the first clause, I guess. Why does he have to save those people?
Well, basically, like I said, he discovers the wallet, and he's like, oh, that's one of those things. I've got to sort this out. But he can't pick up the wallet. They pick up the wallet while he's gone trying to work out how to what to do about the wallet. And so then he has to like kind of trace them, find them, and save them.
And if he doesn't, then what happens?
Well, they'll die and get taken to the underworld and marry the ghost.
Right, but yeah, no,
they're cursed.
Right, but they're strangers to him, isn't that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not to say that you can never have the stakes be, I need to save these strangers, especially if it's someone's job, like they're a doctor or they're a soldier or they're any of these things, a detective, you know, they're trying to solve the case because if they don't, then the victim of that crime will die. But that's why in those stories, we need to sometimes go the extra mile for a movie or a TV show. Because remember, this is not just like an episode of a TV show, wherein the rules would be slightly different, and you could just say, this is the case of the week. In a movie, we like to have the main character be more connected to the case of the week. It's like, the serial killer has kidnapped my wife, or I'm an alcoholic detective and I'm on the search for the bootlegger killer or something who's been poisoning everyone's whiskey. And that's, well,
how about if he's adopted into the family?
Oh,
how about if he's an actual member of the family?
Yeah, that would.
Sorry, I just thought of that when you're talking.
That would, I mean, yeah, that would be a much more like direct method by which he had to get involved. That would mean that you're gonna have to maybe rethink the log line. In that case, it might be like, you know, the deadbeat younger brother who always wanted to be a ghost detective finds his family actually besieged by this ghost or whatever. Yeah, be thinking along those terms, and also be thinking, why does this guy have to get involved in the ghost bride case? Is he himself single? Is he like chronically single? And the ghost might turn its attention to him and be like, oh, you're an eligible bachelor, right? Could there be some you may have seen Corpse Bride, which is the Tim Burton movie. It was sort of similar.
I haven't seen it, but I know of it. Yeah,
I would check it out if you're going to write a movie called The Ghost Bride. That's a horror comedy.
Ghost Bride.
It's also quite good. It's quite well done. So it's not the same story as this, but it just is to say, the fact that the hook of the movie is there's this zombie bride lady matters because the main character is an eligible bachelor, and she's like, well, why don't I marry you? So it just ties together a little bit more and comes across as a little more high concept than this, which it sort of just feels like you have a cool ghost, and then you're like, a guy runs into that ghost, and that's the
right.
That's the movie. But maybe it's just that you haven't kind of worked out all the connections or all the details yet. But I mean, the local folklore ghost as the foundation for a horror movie, you're in great shape there. People love that. That's always going to work. Cool. It then just becomes a question of what's the situation and who's the only person that should be going through this. And I guess it might just be that your main character just needs a little more connection and specificity to what's going on. And if you're going to be rethinking it entirely so that the main that this family are actually his family, maybe his estranged family, or maybe like he's adopted into them, or any of these things, then that's going to add a lot more engagement, but also totally change the shape of the logline itself.
No, that's great. Thanks. That's the kind of feedback I needed. Thank you.
Sure. And maybe also, just if we're going to include that they don't believe in Asian ghosts, we probably have to mention that we are in Asia. So maybe
in Asia, yeah.
Yeah, maybe just be more specific about the geographical and cultural location of the story. Questions about this?
Not from me. That's loads to go on. Thanks.
Thank you. Looks like we have some chat. Are these questions about this? No, they're not about this. Okay. Thanks, Kevin. Ghost Bride. Sounds cool to me. Let's look at some more. We have Carmen, and we have... Who did the magic bag? Charlie and the magic bag. That was... Who was that in our chat? That was Moon Spirits. Okay, great. Let's start with Carmen, and then we'll move on to Charlie and the magic bag. So, Carmen, are you there?
Yes.
You are, great. Okay, cool. So, can you read this out loud for us? The logline that you want to work on in this class is the second one, right? So the asylum seeker.
Okay. A Pakistani asylum seeker flees her farm in Karachi, only to find dangers far more insidious behind the military housing project. And that's kind of a part I have an issue with. I didn't get that whole... okay, so I'm sorry. Before you talk about it, can we revisit the format? I'm not sure if that's the right word. It's like a paradigm, right? When the inciting incident, a adjective, protagonist, must conflict before... I didn't get the last part.
Stakes.
Before...
Yeah, stakes is the last part.
Okay.
So yeah, this is the sort of logline format. Not every single movie has to use this, but this is just a good place to start, because these are all the questions that we'll have on our minds. So yeah, when the inciting incident occurs, an adjective protagonist must conflict before or in order to the stakes or the ticking clock. Ticking clock being like the bad thing that's on the way that's going to happen if we don't act.
Right.
So let's look at what we have here. And what genre was this? Another thriller, or is this a horror movie?
Yes. Thriller / horror. Can you do that in
You can
in
do
the
it.
film industry?
Yeah, no, there's all kinds of slashes and genre mashups. But
Okay.
let me just ask you: is it something supernatural or is it not?
Well, that's an interesting question, because a book that I finished writing, I've been having editors review it, and a lot of them have said different things, while I was thinking that it was like grounded in reality. I'm being told that it's more like speculative fiction or magical realism, and I'm thinking, oh wow, that's interesting, because I thought it was pretty grounded in reality. So here I am thinking, well, maybe I'm not so grounded in reality then.
You
know
got
what I
feedback
mean?
on this same story, you mean?
No, on a different. It's a book that I wrote. So I don't know if screenwriting would carry over that
genre definitions
thing.
work a little bit differently between novels and movies, but not incredibly differently. So it's probably what you're thinking. If you think it's a horror thriller, it's probably a horror thriller. But I will just there are certain coded phrases, or there are certain phrases that just imply one direction or the other. Danger is more... Anytime you're saying that the danger is more insidious than people could ever imagine, or anything like that, that is usually a key implying that there is supernatural evil responsible for the thing. So I just want to make sure that if that is what you're not trying to say, then you aren't accidentally saying that. So the reader might think, oh, okay, cool, this is going to be sort of a haunted military housing project movie. Is that what this is? It is.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. No, then you're fine. Then yeah, you're in good shape. All right. Let me take a look at the logline itself. All right, a Pakistani asylum seeker flees her home country only to find dangers more insidious behind the military housing project that she stays in, I'm guessing. Okay. So you want to just pick a stronger adjective for your main character. Like it is relevant where your character comes from, so you can include a Pakistani asylum seeker is necessary, but we want a little more specificity for your main character. Again, this can be something. What is your main character struggling with? What is the main what is a trait that is going to be relevant in the story? What is something that is going to make this more personal of a story for them in some kind of way? So think along those lines and try to pick a strong adjective that we understand. Okay, that's why it's this person who has to do this. They alone would have a particularly uphill or difficult or interesting or ironic journey in this situation. Our main character shouldn't just be like a dude, right? It's just, I don't know, some dude. And you haven't done that, but that is just to emphasize how important it is that we're like, oh, only that person should have been the one to go through that journey.
She has been mutilated, and that's already in the screenplay, but it's implied because it's the very beginning. So I just I wrote a very subtle scene pointing to that, but it's not being fully revealed yet.
So we haven't seen her face yet in the first couple pages, you mean?
Okay, so the mutilation is not of the face. It's
okay.
Yeah.
I see. Well, that might be relevant. It might not be. Like, you can pick a trait to describe your character in the logline that is like something about them. Like, I don't know, if you were like a schizophrenic man returns home to try to figure out the mystery, like you'd probably want to include that. But I'll just say, if you can, try to have it be some trait of that character's personality, because again, like, just an illness or a mutilation is not really who you are as a person. That's just like a thing that has happened to you.
Yeah.
So it can
okay, so controversial. She is controversial. She maybe a controversial Pakistani woman, because she does return back to, and that's the end. That's toward the end. She returns back to the farm, and she starts activism on behalf of the women of her country.
You said at the end of the movie, though? So,
yeah.
If it's at the end of the movie, it can't really be something that's relevant throughout the course of the movie.
Okay.
If you describe a person as controversial, that to me implies that they're like a controversial political figure or a divisive speaker or a religious leader or something like that. So if that's what you want to imply, again, you can go that way. Just try and make sure you aren't suggesting something that is not in fact in the story, because you only have so many words to in fact use in a logline. There's not a hard limit, but there's a limit where it's like the audience will just not be able to pay attention anymore. So
she's also suicidal. She's suicidal as well.
Okay.
So I don't know if that would be a good one.
You got to pick the thing that's most relevant. So maybe that's relevant.
Okay.
Is it a ghost that feeds on despair and depression? Because if so, maybe that's the thing that needs to go there. Also, if this is a horror movie, and I guess you're saying it is, remember that the threat is the hook in horror. And if you just say like, "Ooh, it's a mystery," I don't know, you've watched the movie and find out, most readers will be like, "No, I have 50 other loglines to read where it tells me what the hook is right up front." So if you can find a way to tell us, like, if you really, really, really want it to be a secret and that the reader won't even know what it's going to be before we go in, then it's a big risk to take. You can do it. But imagine if for Jaws or whatever, what if we describe that as like, it's a movie about people who find dark secrets out on the open waves. It's like, well, the dark secret is there's a shark. So you gotta kind of like tell us it's a shark movie, and then you'll get people in who are like down to see a shark movie.
Well, one of the main things that's already happened in the story is that her husband is a member of a terrorist organization, and she's little by little finding out that he is the one that has stolen from the armory. He's a soldier, and that's why she lives in the barracks. Okay. So he is the one responsible for stealing those arms that are missing, which she finds out coincidentally when they're at Friday Fun Day for the unit. They're talking about it, and then she happens to see the arms in the home. So her husband is little by little becoming a threat to her, starting from the very beginning. So I guess there's maybe a lot going on here.
Yeah, that's all right. So in that case, you really have to sort of try to frame the log line around just one thing as much as you can, and then just sort of imply the rest. So try to look for what is your main character's goal. What she actually, like, we understand she's gone to this new home and things are dangerous or scary or weird, but what is she actually trying to do in the movie? Like, what is the concrete, tangible thing that she's trying to accomplish? And so
Got it.
by getting that in the log line, by emphasizing the threat/danger and put it forward, and specificity for your protagonist, get all those three things in here and you'll amp up the logline quite a bit.
Okay, the threat is the hook. So I need to mention the threat, the primary threat in the logline in some way.
In a horror or thriller logline, usually. Because horror is just like the it's almost always even the title of the movie, isn't it? Jaws, The Babadook, The Thing, Alien, Predator. Like the name of the reason we go to the movie is to see the dangerous thing. Now, what the movie is, this maybe it's more of sort of like a psychological thriller drama or something, and that's not really at the forefront of what it is. So we would have to like look at the full outline to really get a picture of it. But that's just my my instinct and my suggestion for you would be find, like, if instead you could say something like she flees her home country and takes up residence in this military housing project, and now she has to solve this mystery or reveal the secret of what this thing is. Like she has to uncover the secret of the ghost that's haunting her wing, or of the monster that's stalking the corridors, or something like that. We just know what we're dealing with a little more. People will be more attracted to that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So that's a couple of these so far. Let me check if we have questions in the chat or questions about anything we've talked about so far that you guys want to ask on voice before we go into the others for our last 20 minutes. All right.
I posted the edited one. Sorry, I was chewing.
No problem. Okay, well, so you posted an edited one. That's great. So we'll take a look at that soon. Looks like we have 20 minutes. We have 2 of them left, so let's give them 10 minutes each. We'll start with Joe Toole on Hollow. And can we get a genre, please?
I don't really know. Just like a drama, I guess.
Drama. Okay, great. Go ahead and read out the logline out loud.
Yeah, I only just made this up, so okay. Called Hollow. Whilst visiting the grave of his wife and young daughter, a stricken lumberjack accidentally befriends a fatherless and friendless 6-year-old in the woods. He prepares to method act in his school play role as a tree.
Okay, let me read this again. This is a drama. Is there a title?
It's meant to be like drama comedy, I guess.
Oh, a drama. Okay. So, while visiting the grave of his wife and young daughter, a grief-stricken lumberjack accidentally befriends a fatherless and friendless 6-year-old boy in the woods as he prepares to method act in his school play role as a tree. You mean as the kid prepares to do that, not as the adult, right? We just have some pronoun confusion.
Yes, I may have botched the writing.
That's okay. So yeah, when a pronoun could apply to more than one person, then sometimes you just have to find a different way of phrasing it. It's a little weird if you were like, as the latter prepares to method act in his role. Well, that actually might work, but we just need to specify a little bit. So I'll just say pronoun confusion. This feels like a short film to me. This is a feature?
Yes, yeah, I don't really know. I sort of just like had this idea and I thought I'd just throw it out there. Maybe it doesn't work as well for a feature.
Let me check one more time. So he's visiting the grave of his wife and daughter. A grieving lumberjack befriends a 6-year-old child in the woods. Does the kid live in the woods, or does he just that's just where he happens to meet him?
Yeah, well, the thing that was meant to be funny about it, I don't know. It's a really random, but I just thought it was funny that I've just got this image in my head of this like guy looking out to like cut down a tree, and he just sees a boy just like standing with his arms outstretched, stiff as it.
That is funny. I agree. I guess my question is, in the logline, it's sort of saying, like, you put a lot of emphasis on this idea of the woods and the trees. It sort of sounds like you're saying the kid is the kid homeless and he lives in the woods, or is this just where the characters happen to meet?
It's just so where they happen to meet. The kid's just there. Yeah.
So, as he prepares to method act in his school play role as a tree. So, what is the main character trying to do? I guess would be the question.
You know, and that was one of the things that, as soon as you actually mentioned that to Carmen, it like extremely highlighted what the issue is I don't really have a particular goal with the main character, which would be, I guess, the lumberjack. I guess it was the idea in my head was just that it's more. I guess I don't know. In some sense, it's a little bit. Little Miss Sunshine is more of an actual journey that takes place, so there's a bit more to it. But I guess the idea was sort of the same, where it's like a guy that's overcoming a form of depression. So, and I didn't realize that was the case until just then. But yeah, it's almost the sort of same thing. Like you're following like the kid, the boy's journey more than the lumberjack. But the lumberjack is changing as a result of the heartedness of this kid, I guess.
Okay, so wait, if the kid is the main character, you should frame it around the kid.
I'm more meant just in the same sense that really the main character isn't necessarily the girl in Little Miss Sunshine.
Oh, I see. Okay, right. It's just like the pivotal person for that story.
It's more the I don't know what the terminology is, but the thing that's driving the story, I guess.
Right.
I like the idea of the end sort of being quite similar, actually, now that I think about it.
Okay, so yeah, the biggest thing is we just need a thing for the characters to be doing, because right now this is sort of just describing a single scene, like just, or maybe a couple scenes where he meets this kid in the woods and makes friends with him. But what's the conflict? What are they trying to do? What are we watching people do? Does he have to teach the kid how to be a lumberjack? Do they have to cut down the biggest redwood in the forest? Does the kid have to teach the guy how to be an actor in the play? Like, what is it that they are actually going to be doing? Do they get caught in a storm? This could just be like, so many different things, because we just need to focus on the events and what the characters are trying to do.
I think the relationship was meant to be around, like I said, the kid would bring this guy out of his, depression, and whilst also the lumberjack would be teaching the kid to sort of stand up to himself. So one is learning to harden up while the other is learning to harden up, I guess.
Okay, great. Yeah, that sounds like that could be a foundation for a feature. I would try. So when you rework the logline, just put more emphasis on the main character's goal and something that should feel like it would take 90 minutes of movie time to accomplish, and it should be something that we understand is going to take people doing stuff, not just people thinking about stuff or sitting around or reflecting on stuff. Visual action that we can track through tangible goalposts. Thanks for this. Looks like, let's do Moon Spirits with Charlie and the Magic Bag.
Cool. I'm here.
Hi, can you read this out for us?
Sure. Okay. Titled Charlie and the Magic Bag. Genre adventurous fantasy. A boy, rough around the edges, meets ex-chef Esther outside of her restaurant stolen by Master Chef Rodrigo. Charlie vows to help her regain her status as Master Chef, but gets trapped in a world of talking food and kitchen supplies with only one way out: learn to cook.
Oh, learn to cook. I'll add that on the end. All right, thank you for that. So a couple of questions here. What's the magic bag? Wait a minute. What does the magic? What is the magic bag? Can you explain that?
Yeah, the magic bag is actually something that he finds in her restaurant, in Esther's restaurant, when he goes in to try to sabotage the restaurant from Rodrigo. And it's found under a loose floorboard inside of the restaurant. Now, the magic bag is actually a bag that he can just reach into it and can grab any ingredient from around the world, like anything from around the world, and just use it for cooking. So he tries to use this bag. Yeah, he tries to use this bag to think of really, really like new, fresh ideas to help Esther in, making the bag. But he has two. While he was going to sabotage, he's met by two sides of his conscience. One is the good side that's personified by a wooden spoon, and the other side is personified by an uncooked popcorn. That the uncooked popcorn that pops when it gets upset. So in a ruffle between them two, where he's trying to like create dishes with Esther, he falls into the magic bag. And he falls into the magic bag. He goes into a world of talking food and kitchen supplies. And the only way he can get out is learn how to cook so he can feed the king of the food land, the magical food land, and escape the world with the help of his two friends, um, Danny and Nestor, the two conscious. Yeah.
Okay. So this kind of sounds like two or maybe even three different movies to me. And the fact that I mean, I had to ask what the magic bag is, and you mentioned all this stuff that's not even in the log line. That's all. That kind of tells me that raises the question for me: is that the hook of the movie, or is it not? I mean, like if you have the movie titled for something, especially this genre where it's like kid and adventurous thing, like kid and magic thing, that sort of whole genre. If I did the whole log line for James and the Giant Peach, and then at the end I was like, "What's the giant peach?" then that would be a problem, right? So it sort of feels like maybe the magic bag
I see.
right. So it feels like maybe is the magic bag an
Yeah.
extraneous part of this, or are you just not including it in this one sentence? Because we need to like
I
whenever possible, this needs to be just one sentence. Go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't put it in there. I had actually did a one sentence, but it still doesn't have the bag in it. One is another one is Charlie must learn to cook in order to free himself from a magical world of talking food and kitchen supplies.
Oh, okay. So is he in the
But I
bag for
still
the
don't have
majority of the
the.
movie?
Yes, he is.
He is. Okay, so that actually makes me think that all of this
Hmm.
stuff is in fact, like the stuff about the chefs and the restaurant being stolen and all that stuff is in fact only a tiny part of the movie, and the vast majority of this is in fact going to be a
Yeah.
sort of like Candyland style portal fantasy adventure. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so in that case, it's it's less that you need to, you know, change, put the make feature this magic bag thing in this logline. It's more that you need to reframe the entire logline around that. So, it's, I mean, the just the basic situation here is a kid he meets an ex chef outside of her restaurant. The restaurant was stolen by a guy named Rodrigo. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so Charlie vows to help her regain her status as Master Chef. Why?
Oh, because they became friends. Okay, the thing about Charlie is his dream is to travel around the world and try everything, all the foods from around the world. When he meets Esther, she tells him of all the things that she could make. And he's in this like fantasy world of all these different foods by the food that she used to make when she was a chef. So he's like basically giving up, like trying to find a way to travel the world and can just get Esther to cook him all of these different things from around the world. That's why he wants to help her. That's why he wants to help her get her restaurant back.
Because she can cook stuff for him?
Yeah, from all around the world.
But doesn't he have a magic bag that can produce foods from all around the world? Or are you saying just raw ingredients?
He didn't have. No, he didn't. It's just raw ingredients,
Oh, okay.
and he didn't have it's just raw ingredients, and he didn't have the bag when they met. But he went and yeah. But
okay.
right,
So you
and he
might
goes
say,
into yeah.
is he dreaming of being a chef, or his goal is just he wants to have tasted everything?
He wants to just have tasted everything. It's like really just like selfish, kind of fat. Like I just want to eat like really good food from around the world. That's really basically it.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
for a little kid, I could maybe see why that would be a motivation for them in a very kind of, Roald Dahl sort of way. You know, the Roald Dahl character that's just like round British boy who's like, I want to eat all the chocolates. It's like in every Roald Dahl book, there's
Yeah.
his whole personality is he just wants to eat all the chocolates. So I could maybe see that.
Mm-hmm.
But in which case, I mean, we're still stumbling over why is this the only way that he's decided he can do this? And it feels like we're sort of just dancing around some of the more obvious solutions to this, which are in family movies, usually there is a family at the heart of it. So is there no way that this can just be like his mom or like his older sister or something like that, when we don't have to worry and wonder about like, why does this kid happen we have to like lay all this track of getting him to go meet this person, then befriend this person, and then be like, oh, I'll help you save your restaurant for these reasons because I want you to make yummy food for me. So is there no way that this can just be someone related to him, or
Okay.
do you see what I mean here?
Oh, definitely can be like his grandmother, even like his mother, grandmother, or aunt or something like that. Definitely.
Yeah, look at every Pixar movie has
Gotta make
like
that.
look at everything from Coco to Up. It's all about like, well, I guess Up actually the adventure is not with people who are direct family, so that's a bad example. But a lot of these movies will have people who are direct family because that's things that kids really easily understand those relationships. So maybe if it's like
Mm-hmm.
a kid who he grew up in a chef family, he loves food. If his family restaurant is going to go out of business, he's the only one that can save it. You don't have to go through as like with the logline we have now. I just have so many questions of how we got into the situation and the magic bag is like throwing a whole other level of wrenches into things. So let's like try to like simplify and clarify by picking a simpler reason why the main character wants to accomplish his goal. And then if the majority of the movie is he's in Magic Bag World and needs to get out of food world or whatever it is, then describe that in the log line. Because if you don't even describe what we're doing in the movie in the log line, then we're in big trouble. I'll just I'll summarize a couple things at the end here. So, specificity of main character. You said he was rough around the edges, but that if it's a really little kid, that means something very different than if it's, an 18-year-old. If it's a 6-year-old, I struggle to even see how they could be rough around the edges in the first place. But so yeah, maybe just
Yeah, in my mind, I'm seeing him like as a little orphan. I'm seeing him in my mind. I was seeing him like as a little orphan, like in the streets, like has no home, and he runs into an old lady
oh
outside of the restaurant who's mad at the world because her restaurant was taken from her by this really cocky Italian chef Rodrigo,
uh-huh.
and that's why they're like outside in the street talking to each other. And she's telling him like all these different things that she's made, and he's really into food because he's an orphan and he's out like homeless, and
Okay.
that's when he breaks into the
So yeah,
restaurant.
that's a totally different movie. I hadn't even pictured any of that. So you might describe him in that case as
Yeah.
a food obsessed orphan, or something along those lines that tells us a little more about this kid and why he might be wanting to do this. If he's being like sort of adopted and taken in by this chef, then I could easily see how that might motivate his main quest as well. So
Cool.
let me just put a couple things. Okay, so specificity of main character. We want to frame the logline around what we'll actually be doing for a majority of the screen time. And then we'll just say motivation, stakes, urgency. This is just always a question for loglines. Motivation, why does the main character have to do this? Stakes, what happens if they don't do this? And urgency, why do they have to do this now? And so you have the urgency, the restaurant's going to get shut down. The stakes and motivation are what you're going to need to find the answers to, which might be in making sure you pick just the right person to be the one to go through this, and the web of familial relationships, or however you want to set that up, just makes sense. And that will all add stakes, right? Because the stakes are going to be, if I don't do this, then the restaurant of this person that I care about for this reason is going to have to go under. And motivation, I think your motivation is more like along those same lines. This person that I care about or have come to care about is going to lose their business and their way of life unless I do this. It's less that he wants to just eat every food in the world, which is a pretty kind of like a little bit of a a strange or abstract goal for a movie, I guess. I mean, the fact that it's a little kid makes it kind of work, but you probably want to frame his motivation and the urgency of it around, oh no, this person I care about is going to lose everything.
Yeah.
All right, any questions about this? I realize that was a lot of stuff. No questions?
Is it, does it have to be a question about log lines at the moment?
Right now, or like either this logline that we're talking about or just general loglines, but I can just move on in a second to questions about anything.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Let me just really quickly give feedback to this revised one, then we'll close out the class and I'll just open the floor to questions about anything. This is Logan with Give It Back. Go ahead and read it out for us, Logan.
Yeah. Alrighty. When a Chicagoan shop owner is killed by the outfit over a debt, his cowardly son accepts the help of a rising street gang in order to take back his father's shop and neighborhood from the rival gangs and the mob.
All right, thanks for this. So this is a Chicagoan shop owner. Seeing the word Chicagoan is just so strange to me. Usually we can just express this when a Chicago shop owner, how I would think that we could do it. He is killed by, what is the outfit?
It's like the Chicago Mafia. It's just what they call them.
Oh, okay. But so do you think an average reader will know that just from you capitalizing it and putting it like that? Wouldn't you just say the mob or the mafia?
Okay. I thought it was common knowledge.
Oh, not to me at least. Maybe to other people. All right. So
I think it's better to change it then.
Okay. So he's killed by the mob over a debt. His cowardly son accepts the help of a rising street gang in order to take back his father's shop and neighborhood from rival gangs and the mob. I think you've already implied that. He accepts the help of a rising street gang. Probably frame it around the leader of that gang so we can understand that this is like a central relationship of the movie. It's not just a bunch of faceless, no-name gangsters, right? So, a rising.
I thought it would be more about the institution, though.
Sorry, say
like how I thought it would be more about like the sort of institution, if that makes sense. Like you know how like in The Godfather, there's a bunch of characters and they all have names and personalities, but it's like Michael and his relationship with the family, the mob.
Right. I see what you mean.
It's kind of like he's been in this area where it's like, okay, there's gang violence all around him, but he's done his best to just say like, okay, I'm gonna try my best, even though it's very hard to like avoid all this gang violence. All my friends are joining the gangs. I'm not going to join any. I'm just going to inherit my father's shop. And then he's like, it's his relationship with, and then in the movie, of course, that changes, right? And that's kind of like, it's a catalyst, the break into two, obviously.
Sure, but there must be someone that represents this other group, right? This rising gang must have someone at the head or the heart of it who is going to represent that to the main character, I would think. So it's.
Oh yeah, I was thinking it'd be like like his friend, like they grew up together, but he kind of went another direction, and he's in the gang.
Yeah,
sure. I just haven't created the characters yet.
Gotcha. Okay, so frame it around the person rather than just the help of a rising gang is like doesn't really mean much to us. But if we're like, oh, it's this specific person that we're going to have your character matched up with and forced to work with, even though it goes against his principles or something, we start to see interesting drama there.
Yeah, and I just wanted the concrete kind of metric to be like the territory, right? Because that's always important in these gang kind of wars.
For sure, yeah. So this looks pretty good. When a Chicago shop owner is killed by the mob over debt, his cowardly son accepts the help of a rising gang leader to take back his father's shop and neighborhood. You obviously continue to adjust it as needed or as the changes that you make necessitate, but that looks pretty good to me.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we are at the end of our time. And so I am going to remind everyone that if you've not yet signed up, to please do so. If you want to be in the next week of this course, you can go to, I guess we didn't get into theme and dramatic arguments. We had a lot of loglines to work with, which was great. Remember, keep reading these pro scripts. Read one for next week and be ready to answer questions about it. Next week is going to be on outlining, so you're going to refine your logline as much as possible based on the feedback you've gotten today. You're also going to fill out your sketchbook. Again, there's no right or wrong things to include in that. Just put all your ideas for locations and characters and lines and moments and set pieces and whatever else you have in there. And read a script. So read a script, refine logline, fill out sketchbook. That's all for next week. If you need to enroll, you can go to scriptcamp.net/membership. scriptcamp.net, and you can sign up right from here, or you can buy the course on its own if you want to, but the best value is going to be from membership with the unlimited option. Oh, my mouse has disappeared, I think. But here we go. Yep. So just go to, there we go. I got it. scriptcamp.net/membership, and you can start your free trial, which lasts 2 weeks. So that would be the first 2 classes of this course. That's not loading for some reason. That's fine. You get how to do it. You know what to do. You've been on the internet before. And then let's look at what we have coming up. Remember, free t-shirts are available if you want to message Nacho, our co-founder, with your size and address. We have the there will be actually no lab on this upcoming, not with me at least. This upcoming Saturday, I think Nacho will be taking this if he can, or if people show up for it. That will be Saturday 4 to 6. Bring whatever questions you have. We have a referral program too, so refer a friend. They get discounted membership. You get a free month. You can do this as many times as you want. What's next at ScriptCamp? So tomorrow we have 12 to 2 rewrite class. We have our final playwriting course with Morgan Smalley from 2 to 4. And then we have I will not be there for lab at least. But then on Sunday, we also have table reads, Sunday 4 o'clock. You can bring up to 5 pages of a script that you've written and get feedback on it / hear the class read it together. And then, this is the beginning of this 8-week course, but we have pilot bootcamp that is also after the pitch camp is done, which there's 2 meetings left of that. Then that will take the place of the pitch bootcamp on the Sunday slot from 11 to 1. So. Lots of things going on here, lots of different classes, plenty to do, and I think we're going to leave it there for today, just because I want to take a few last minutes for questions. What questions do we have about loglines or any of the things that we have talked about today? Looks like
I have one. Oh,
let me get.
I actually rewrote. Oh.
You rewrote your logline? That's great. So yeah, Joe Toole also rewrote his. Let me just give my quick feedback on it. I won't even call on him. I just want to go through it quick. After his cabin, land, and the grave of his family is under threat of being lost to the greed of a large corporation, a grief-stricken, hardened lumberjack must fight for his home whilst protecting the innocence of a naive 6-year-old boy preparing to method act in his school play role as a tree. So just a lot of words in this one now. This is now like 4 clauses when it feels like the story is actually simpler than that. Try to just shorten this and condense this down. We don't need to know all these details necessarily. His cabin, land, and the grave of his family. I think you mean the graves of his family members probably, but try to maybe just pick one thing. After his land is threatened by a corporation, a grief-stricken lumberjack must blank and blank. So try to reduce like 7 or 8 words from this if you can. And whilst protecting the innocence of the boy, just try to connect. Why is he the caretaker of this kid, I guess? So if we can learn in the logline why this partnership has begun, or is this a relative of his that he's forced to take care of, or just how does the kid actually play into what's going on? I think this will be a lot stronger overall. Thanks, Joe Toole. All right, let me take questions now from anyone at all.
Can this be a question about something other than loglines?
Yes, whatever you want.
Okay. I don't know where I got this idea to do this, but I've been writing each individual scene where I start on the positive and end on the negative, and then vice versa. So does that sound right? Because I have almost every book there is on screenwriting, and I can't find out, like, where did I get that idea to do that? But that's what I've been striving for some reason.
Probably Save the Cat note cards, because that is in the like method of Save the Cat. You write a plus and minus at the beginning of every card, and you sort of emphasize, or you lay out like what is the emotional high point that we begin at, or the emotional high point that we end at. So, what was the question?
Okay.
Should you be doing this, or who recommends?
Yes.
Like,
is it?
Go ahead.
Is this necessary every single time? Why can't there be a static moment here and there?
I mean, I don't do that thing with the pluses and minuses. If it helps you, you can.
Okay.
I think that why can't there be a static moment? I will kind of say the answer to that is because stasis is not engaging to watch. Usually, there are occasional moments where something can linger, or something can be, we can have a quieter scene with not as much happening. That's all very possible. So, like, don't feel bound to do that. Like, if that's not helping you, then throw it out.
Okay, because doesn't it feel kind of formulaic to follow this? Up and then down,
It might.
Throughout an entire,
It might, or I mean, we could also probably break down some amazing movies that we could sort of follow that same progression. So I would say it's a tool to use, and if it's not useful for you, then you don't need it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Kevin says, to clarify for the sketchbook for next week.
Yeah, I didn't finish that sentence there. But just like you mentioned the sketchbook to prepare for next week. Can you just say again what kind of things we should be putting in that?
Sure. So there's no wrong things to include in that. That should be ideas for characters that you have, ideas for places the characters are going to go, lines of dialogue that they will say there. Maybe you have like some initial ideas of the events of the story that will take place. Maybe you have a couple different ideas for the ending, or for the beginning, or for the middle. Like any individual ideas that you have that will work in the script, just try to keep them all in the same place. Research materials, links to, Wikipedia articles, or YouTube videos, or pictures, or just anything that will help you set the scene, or remind yourself of the idea, or just start to assemble the tool chest or the pieces for the story before you start actually arranging it in order.
Okay. Yeah, great. Thanks.
Sure. Thanks for the question.
I'll get onto it.
Yep. Here's more. Nacho just posted some more as well. Thanks for that. Moonsberry, did you have a question?
Yeah, I actually redid it really quickly and see if that's closer to what you were talking about.
Okay, so Charlie, orphan, finds himself trapped in a world inside the magic bag and must escape in time to save his new adopted mom, Esther's restaurant, from being permanently owned by Master Chef Rodrigo. Yeah, this is closer to the format that you'd probably be using. The audience isn't going to know what you mean by the magic bag, though, so you have to like spell everything out as if if we read this, would be like, well, where was the pamphlet I got that was supposed to explain what all the stuff was beforehand? So you remember, you still need to frame it in terms of like when inciting incident occurs. So it might be when a food obsessed orphan becomes trapped in a food world, something like that, or a world of talking food.
Okay.
Then he must escape before blankety blank and like all the rest of it. So you still have to lead us into it a little more.
Okay.
But the rest of it is seeming pretty solid. Also, just don't give us names. We're not going to remember names, and they're just not important. So we don't need Charlie. We don't need Esther. We don't need Master Rodrigo. You need to define those things by sort of their role in the narrative. We might say an evil domineering chef, or we might say, his kindly adoptive mother, or whatever like that. So just don't rely on the names.
Okay, cool. I got it. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Did you have a question as well, or just you wanted feedback on this?
I mean, I did have a question about there's one of the prompts, the writing prompts. Like, there was a short I saw over there on I forget, over the writers. Is it under introduce yourself, or what is it?
Well, we have a picture prompt and we have a character prompt. Do you mean one of those?
Yeah, I mean, I did the picture prompt already. I did the picture prompt. So I finished that one, but it was another one with that was called it was called the cracks in the ceiling.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure, where was that? Where was that? Yeah, it was called cracks in the ceiling. So I wrote something, and it was supposed to be a short. I was wondering how long is a short supposed to be?
A short is
Like, how long
usually
is a
going to be
short?
10 pages or less is going to be the best length for them. I have seen them go up to 20 something, but if by the time you're going 30 and over, then it's not really short anymore. So don't go above 30 is going to be the hard cutoff.
Okay, and the least is 10.
Well, it's not the least. The least is 1. I mean, you can make a movie of any length you want, but the sort of the most programmable length in film festivals tends to be 10 minutes or less. Less is always fine. So that's what people tend to make in terms of short films. 10 minutes or less is like it can just go the most places. So that's the best place to kind of be.
Okay, I did one with like 4 pages.
That's okay. I mean, yeah, that can still definitely be made, and it can still be programmed at a festival, so no problem there. Well,
Okay.
sorry, was there a question when it came to the prompts?
Yeah. Yes. The question is, how do you do it? How do you put the You have to write your own. You have to write. I saw some people do it. They kind of wrote what they were going to write, and then they kind of posted it separately. I was trying to. Do you post it at the same time? Because I was having trouble posting up the document.
Oh,
Posting
so
the documents
for the prompts, yeah, you're just writing in the chat, so I think you did it right. Let me scroll to it there. But the prompts, you don't actually have to write the whole movie or any of it. You're just writing the log line, basically. So it's just to practice writing log lines.
Okay.
Unless you're
because I wrote like 4-page script.
For a picture prompt? Okay.
No, I wasn't looking at that. Yeah, no, I did the picture prompt. I don't know if anyone saw it yet. Where is it? I'm trying to figure out where it was that I saw it.
Maybe 3-page challenge? I'm not sure, but so feel free to just message me or Nacho if you have a concrete question.
Oh, I see it. Okay, I will.
Okay. Great. Let's so we're a little over time. Any last questions before we move on? And by move on, I mean end class for the week. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering so I'm trying to work on like a heist story right now, and I was wondering if you think that the class the course for the ScriptCamp like premium thing would like help me structure out a heist story, because I've had a hard time finding like structures for heists in particular.
Yeah, I mean, I write action movies and thrillers and stuff like that all the time. I think that we could definitely help you. We can help you write any genre. The ScriptCamp, the bootcamp course is, it's meant to be one size fits all. So if you want to do heist, then yeah, for sure you can do that.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, and I was just going to add, if anyone had some difficulties with the website or anything, I will stay for a little bit after Conor leaves, just to help anyone who's having trouble signing up or needs help. I'll still be here.
Thanks, Nacho.
Conor, I was just wondering if I could ask you a short question in private after the class is over.
Sure. Yep. Just we'll do a Discord call.
All right, thanks. Sure. Thank you.
Last question before we call it.
Don't know, is that one any better? The logline.
Oh, you've updated your logline? Let me scroll up and find it. Which one was this? This is the lumberjack one, right?
Yeah, the stupid lumberjack one.
The lumberjack. Here we go. Okay, so after his land is under threat, is already a bit passive of being lost to a corporation, a grief-stricken lumberjack must fight for his home while protecting a naive 6-year-old boy who returns to the woods each day to prepare for his school play role as a tree. So this still doesn't quite say why he has to look after the kid, right? Or what their relationship is, or why he has to protect him. I think we're still missing just what is the connection between these two characters? Why are they in each other's lives? Under threat of being lost to a corporation. You probably just want to say, after a corporation threatens his land, perhaps, a grave-stricken lumberjack must... Okay, so he's fighting for his home. I'm guessing the kid cannot actually contribute to that. So our biggest question is going to be, why are they in each other's lives? So try to bring that to the forefront and answer that question, and then you'll build a lot more intrigue for the rest of it.
Kind of don't know what you mean by that.
Why does he
why
have
does
to...
that
It's not his
reason,
kid, right?
Yeah.
So why would somebody else have to protect someone else's kid?
Because he's the only one that's there.
So because he's like adopting him and taking him in and raising him?
Like if let's say you lived in the woods and someone just keeps showing up and they're a kid. You'd have to, and that land is under threat. You kind of have to.
So he just...
It's not taking care of him. It's more like he has to interact with him because he just keeps showing up.
But then what does he have to protect him from? In the logline, it says, while protecting a naive 6-year-old boy.
The corporation is going to take down his land.
Oh, so it's the kid's land as well? Or the kid does live in that area of woods or something?
The kid keeps showing up despite the fact that the land is going to get destroyed.
Right.
And so if he's there while they're doing that, he's going to get killed.
He's going to get killed?
Yeah, they're taking down trees. They're taking down land. They've got machinery.
And they wouldn't stop if a child was in the path of the machines? They would just kill the...
The point is that they don't know, and they don't believe him.
They don't believe whom? The lumberjack or the kid?
Yeah, because he just keeps showing up and then leaving.
I guess I'm just even more confused than after this. So if the kid himself is also being threatened by this corporation who's going to, I don't know, chop down the trees on his land, then that's something that we should try to emphasize or understand in the logline, or just moreover, why this partnership? Why do they have to sort of work together or live together? Why does he take ownership of this kid? Any of these things. So if this is...
I don't know what you mean by ownership. It's not ownership. It's just like it doesn't have to own or like have any relationships outside of knowing the kid to protect him.
I think
I understand what you're saying, but I don't understand why he needs to. It felt quite straightforward to me when I wrote this.
So normally a kid's parent is going to protect them, right? So
right, but
by being the one who is now the protector of a child, you are taking ownership of them. So like
assuming they know where he is.
Right. So I mean, some questions there. That all, I hope, helps you sort of reframe this in a way that helps us see what the connection is, what the threat is, what the stakes are. Hopefully that helps you out. We do have to end class right now because we're 20 minutes over. But we'll see you next week. I mean, keep working on it. Bring it next week if you're signing up, and we'll be glad to work with you more on this.
So, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the class.
Thanks, Connor.
Thank you so much.
Who came and who was new and who's tried this before. Yep, scriptcamp.net. You can sign up, and Nacho will be here to help you if you have any issues with that. Thanks so much, folks. We're going to say goodnight for now, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, and if you